A concept car helps us push the boundaries of what might be possible. Without that sort of shooting for the moon, I don't think we'd ever see the progression we see.
We're following the design process and engineering process of the manifesto car for Polestar, and we're following it all the way through all the ups and downs and blood, sweat and tears and what we experience until the finished product. The aim is always to do something that is far enough out there to be inspiring, but at the same time realistic enough so you don't disappoint when the real thing then hits the road. We set out to do a real car from the start. You're so close to reality that people can see themselves in this car, in this object, interacting with it. And that's our skill, to take that step, to inspire people to what the future may hold for them, but not lose them by being a designer's dream that is not realistic.
So what we're trying to do here, we introduced in the Precept, and we're just trying to bring that into production, which is
a bit challenging. And the customer should feel, oh, I want it. And they should feel that this is something completely new that they have never seen before. And that's what we aim for.
When we get our first sort of surfaces or sketches from the design team, we take them and look at how we might be able to make them. Do they do what we want them to do? So it's not got to look good, only look good. It's actually got to function and do what we want it to do. So that could be such as comfort or something like that. Or it might have to work from a safety point of view. So we have to take their sketch and see, can we actually make it do all those things? The team have gone further than most concept cars would in trying to deliver something that we can realise.
For me, this is the dream scenario. When you don't have anything, you know, it's just super flash and it's almost like an iPhone, you know, you just have this really nice line. This door has to be able to open, and then you add a door handle that works, and that needs to work. Then all of a sudden you see the radius and the gaps, they start to get bigger and bigger. And this is something that we, from the beginning, we fight to make sure it ends up like that.
This car is setting up the future of Polestar as a brand and as a design language for the brand from here onwards. And it also looked at new parameters in the way how we design cars and industrial products in general.
My biggest inspiration, it comes from airplanes. You know, you look at them and when you walk around, they almost look like they're flying already.
We're following the design process and the engineering process of the manifesto car for Polestar, and we're following it all the way through all the ups and downs and blood, sweat and tears and what we experience until the finished product.
But when we first started this project, as you know, we did the Precept, and that was sort of our goal, to get as close as the Precept. Hey Matt, do you know how much we're putting on the clay?
Like 20 millimeters to make the
yeah.
When they're designing something, this is a very quick way of doing changes, not like doing it in wood, clay in the automotive businesses.
It's a quick process to see a different model, basically. You know, a different outlook on the model.
When we sketch something, then we put it into a 3D environment in the computer, and then it gets smelled. Then you really see what this looks like.
The best part is when it comes off the mill and it's finished, and we can do what we're supposed to be doing, modeling the car.
So, any thoughts on what you want to do? What you would like to change?
I want to go around a little bit first, if you don't mind, and then I can
evaluate what you need to do.
I mean, this car has already a lot of sculpture. You know, you look at it on the body side, how this sort of body side blends into the rear end. But I still want to get more out of it. So you know, you really have the stance of this luxury but sporty car. Again, you do changes, and usually sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's 2 months, because we also have to get technical input. And then after that, we mail it again, and things might not work. We change on the computer, and then again, we do this sort of thing again.
I'm still a child. We were playing with clay. Yeah. Like a little kid in a sandbox with Tonka trucks.
Speak for yourself, chap.
It's a magical spark that is so embedded in the core of the human being that really allows you to come up with ideas that you have never seen before. Or what design does, it allows you to bring this idea to life. The exterior designer really, you know, it's all about the big picture. At the beginning of the process, I don't look at cars at all, because if you do that, you're sort of locking yourself into a corner. My inspiration comes from products, you know, like a radio, like a camera. I look at architecture, airplanes. For me, airplanes are a big inspiration. They have this vision, and if I'm not delivering this vision, they're going to tell me, you know, I'm sorry, but you have to push more the envelope, and you have to be able to visualize the future. Which really allowed us to the front to get a slimmer, or, you know, not so tall graphic towards the end. We really try to minimize the height, and we really try to pack everything in one area. So I think that works really, really well.
So what I said Marcus should talk to you about is tilting the rear face of the lamp rearwards, so to have it pretty much flush with the surface.
Yeah, but it will be easier to connect since this split is here. But all this and all the things on the inside will complicate, and we will be punished with the tolerances.
There's definitely a lot of things that we still need to solve. And I first started by hand because I want these lines to have a certain feeling, and for me that's something that I cannot do in the computer. I have to do it by hand. For this project, we also wanted to have something very elegant, but also something that has a certain speed. So for me, the shark had this sort of a feeling. You know, with one line, you can sort of describe, you know, what the shark looks like. All of the things that I see here, you know, they're sort of like almost very airplane-like as well. So the lowest part and the further part of the nose is sort of this kind of like bone structure. You have this section here and then here, and that's what we call the sort of this shark nose. Probably the rear end is the one that I'm the most proud of. We have this really nice sort of arrow blade light, something that, you know, I have never seen before. What we got to the Precept I mean, it's very, very close, you know, from the sketching or the idea to the concept, and then now from the concept to the production. I think, you know, we are very, very close to that idea.
So we get a design brief when we start. It should be a performance-oriented, low car. That might be your brief. And then slowly we funnel down from a very, very broad perspective, and in the end he's really into like the final small little nitty-gritty details. The main challenge in taking a concept into production is always that when you do the concept, you have less restraints. You don't have seatbelt travel, you usually don't have the seat travel, you have a fixed seat. You don't have knee clearances to things, so you can design quite freely what you want to express, what you want the form language to transform into. Then you need to look at all the restrictions and try to interpret that into a production piece. And on top of that, you've got all the technical parts that fit in here. There's a huge amount of technical details, all from ducting, electronics. There's so much restricting factors in trying to achieve. That is the challenge in trying to make that as true to the initial idea as possible.
We're working on the complete interior of the car. We usually have different areas that we focus on. So now at the moment I'm working on the tunnel console. From the beginning it doesn't look like this. It's when I paint it up in digitally. So I do a print screen of the CAD data. So then I change all the areas how I want it to look. So, and then we go back to my modeler, and he can build it, and we send it to engineering, and they take a look at it. We can get from engineering that, okay, we have a problem here, you know, we need a cog wheel this size, and it needs to be placed here. And we say, okay, we want to move it because that's going through our A surface. Then we work back and forward with them and say, okay, this is what we want to achieve, and say, okay, you can't really get that, but if we do something like this, then we get closer, and it's like a negotiation all the time.
These sort of back models, volume models, we make in order to understand the volume, understand the design theme, and test things, like test reach and, you know, does it work the way you intend when you've drawn it on a piece of paper? It's very much an evaluation tool, both of the form and the volume, proportions, as well as function, you know. Does it actually work the way you're hoping it to work? You can 3D print parts and paint them and dress them, and it will look, you know, more or less like the production car. But you also, sometimes you work in clay, and then you can actually, you mill it out, you have a look at it, and you can modify it, and then scan it, and then redesign the data according to your changes. There are so many different areas where there are different people and competencies which have an influence and input on how we execute things.
So some of the differences with an electric car versus a traditional internal combustion engine car is that aerodynamics are much more important. Some of the most interesting parts of the wind tunnel are seeing the vision become reality. So we spend so much time in the virtual world designing things in CAD. To then see a physical prototype give us actual test results is amazing, and to see something come to fruition is amazing, and that's one of the most amazing parts about coming in the wind tunnel.
So another thing we're testing in the wind tunnel today is we noticed there was an area of separation on the car here. What we've printed is this panel, which just sits in to fill in and kind of increase the radius from the kind of vertical section here to this bumper or bonnet.
When we design something, it also has to be aerodynamic. And the surfaces that we are developing, we constantly changing.
80% of aerodynamics work is in the late stages where it's about, oh, this radius needs to be here a little bit softer and here it can be a bit harder because then the air flows around the corner faster.
We know this will be a contentious topic with the styling studio. However, we wanted to get data behind us before we do, approach the studio with some changes we want. We have to have the data behind us to say, this improves the car by X number of counts or kilometres. Only then can we be confident in what we're asking for. So we'll do the testing first to make sure that it's achievable in terms of the gains on performance.
We started putting the car in the tunnel. This is sort of the first prototype, and here what you can see here, for example, this is sort of the frozen sort of area, with the glass barrel. All the orange parts that you see here are things that we are constantly changing. So right now our challenge is try to modify it so the car also looks good.
We have a design studio who want the car to look and feel a certain way. So within those bounds, our job is then to say, well, what can you do to make the car have less drag? So what you can do with tufts is look for unsteadiness. If you obviously the tufts will be blown in the direction the flow is headed. You need to follow what's going on local to the surface, but you also need smoke or a tuft on the end of a rod to work out what's happening a few feet away from the car. And when you piece together, airflow is a series of building blocks. There are certain types of flow that make up all flows really. Vortex flows, streamline flows, separated flows, backward facing steps, edges. And what we're trying to do is make sure there aren't any really strong vortices, because for a road car that's a bad idea. It's a lot of wasted energy.
So one of the biggest challenges we face with the Precept is keeping the amazing styling. We could have a very boring, blobby design, and it would be very aerodynamic. So the challenge is really to have a fine balance between keeping an amazing design and style and working all the little details to make it as aerodynamic as possible.
We are never interested in copying. We are interested in creating something new, something fresh, something innovative, something that no one has ever done before. We are designing the whole car in the same way as we designed the concept car Precept, and we're using more or less the same material.
So what we're trying to do here, we introduced in the Precept, and we're just trying to bring that into production, which is
a bit challenging. We're trying to make history here. We are doing a tailored knit, which is a new technique, I would say, within the automotive industry to create upholstery in the same way as you create sneakers and shoes in the shoe industry. We are looking for some structure for speaker mesh. So we should find a big technical, unique look of the knitting. It's nice. And we shouldn't even, it shouldn't look too much metally. It should just give that. We think around the material a lot, all the time, and about the sustainability aspect. It's a challenge, I would say, because it's tricky to understand what is the best choice. And we try to get all the knowledge we can and get help from our eminent sustainability team within Polestar. Now we are going to start off with the design of the color.
Because as a color material designer, we're constantly taking in information from the fashion industry, from the sportswear industry, from here, from there, from the furniture industry. So what will be in 3 years from now. So it's a lot of aspects that influence color decisions.
In the same way as we have done hundreds versions of this, we have done 100 versions of the color.
Oh, now I'm with you. So if it's a 3D knit, it gets it anyway. The question is, if it's only the bio-vinyl, does it need the band?
So the plus pack could be a black room. And then you, for the first time, see one of our tailor knit. Wow. And here we have some proposal just to invite you into the design process. This is the next step for this one, to move it slightly wider, to do it rounder.
Plain structure.
Structure in between, it gets more of this sneaker feeling. And I wonder how far can we push it?
And then when we had too much of the plain, it doesn't look good. Here you could see how soften we could make the
and that fits quite well to the rest of the seat. It's quite a soft shape. So
we will see how we do the cushion.
Because the cotton grain you have, the more sensitive it is, yes.
We think about how the customer should perceive our design. We think about how well they should feel when they sit in our interior. We think about how attracted they should feel when they see the car on the street. They should feel that, oh, this is something